Can Rolex refuse to sell you a watch? Just the idea alone that a store would deny you to buy a product they sell can sound very strange. But the fact is that there are a lot of things about the Rolex market that works a lot differently from how you would expect a normal market to work. Before we get into the answer, it's important to understand that when you buy a Rolex watch from a Rolex retailer, you're not actually buying from Rolex. Rolex does not operate on a direct-to-consumer basis. Instead, they have retailer partners who sell Rolex watches under the terms of a Rolex Distribution Agreement. When you purchase a Rolex, you do so from an independent official Rolex retailer, not from Rolex itself. However, for the sake of clarity, we will refer to official retailers as Rolex in this video. Now, Rolex puts each of its customers in three separate categories. A. New clients with no purchase history, that is, most people. B. Existing client with no Rolex purchase history, that is, you've registered yourself in the Rolex system, or perhaps bought something small, but you haven't purchased a watch yet. C. Client with Rolex purchase history, that is, you've bought a watch from Rolex. So, will Rolex ever refuse to sell you a watch? The short answer to the question is yes. Rolex can refuse to sell you a watch, but that seems strange, doesn't it? Of course, they won't refuse to sell you a watch for no reason, so let's look closely at why Rolex may refuse to sell you a watch if you're looking to buy one for the first time. If the watch is for display only, this is perhaps the most understandable of the reasons we will discuss in this list. In recent years, it has become increasingly common to see Rolex dealers display watches that are not for sale in their storefronts and displays. This is indicated by a small sign that reads "for display only." Because Rolex watches are becoming increasingly scarce, it's common to see retailers with empty displays simply because the majority of their watches have been sold. This is the best solution for ensuring that the displays are not empty and that they actually have something to show, as customers can see and try on watches even if they are not for sale. If you want to buy a watch, it's nice to try it on before you buy it, and having retailers display models that are not for sale allows more customers to try and experience Rolex watches. In some cases, the "for display only" signs are simply a way for retailers to keep the watches reserved for their most loyal customers. If a random customer walks in and expresses an interest in purchasing it, the store can simply state that it is not for sale. However, if a good VIP customer comes in and asks to buy it, they may agree. This brings us to the next point. If the watch is a popular model that the store wants to keep for VIP customers. Continuing on from what we said earlier, Rolex may refuse to sell you a watch if they want to reserve it for their best customers. The sign is the simplest way to accomplish this because they can simply state that they are not for sale if a customer asks and they do not wish to sell that particular watch, but they will say yes if a VIP customer asks. Even if there is no "for display only" sign, you may be told that the item is not for sale. And one of the potential reasons could be that you're not a good enough customer. If they suspect that you will flip or sell the watch, this is a big point. Rolex retailers generally hate flippers. Whilst the Rolex watch is your property and you are legally free to do whatever you want with it, flipping a watch that you have purchased from a Rolex retailer is a sensitive topic. In general, Rolex retailers want to sell watches to people who will wear, enjoy, and cherish them for a long time to come. And even if you, for example, sell the watch you recently bought simply because you don't like it, it's hard for the retailer to know whether you intended to sell it all along, or if it's for some other reason. Selling a watch you have bought from a Rolex retailer has become even more sensitive in recent years, as many Rolex watches today sell for more than the recommended retail price. Therefore, if you sell a watch you recently bought, the retailer may believe that it was your intention all along to buy the catch to flip it for a quick buck. Because of all of this, Rolex retailers have become more and more careful with who they sell watches to. This is to ensure the watches they sell aren't sold to flippers who will sell them, but instead to enthusiasts who will enjoy them. If they suspect that you are a dealer or reseller, Rolex explicitly says in the Rolex Distribution Agreement contract that retailers may only sell to final customers. In recent years, it has become increasingly common for both Rolex and official retailers to score the web for online advertisements in order to identify the watches being sold. This is possible if the seller clearly shows the receipt in the photo indicating where the watch was purchased. It may also occur if the seller does not conceal the serial number on the warranty card or engraved on a repaired watch. If Rolex discovers the serial number of a watch being sold online, they can use it to determine which retailer sold it. They can then notify the retailer that one of their customers is selling their watch. If this occurs repeatedly, Rolex may suspect that the store is selling to resellers on purpose or with awareness, which may result in a warning or even the retailer contract being terminated. That being said, it's not just that Rolex retailers don't like it when their customers sell their watches. It could also be because they are afraid of the consequences that Rolex will impose. With this in mind, it is understandable that retailers have become increasingly cautious about who they sell watches to. With that said, if a retailer believes you intend to sell or flip the watch, they may refuse to sell it to you. They know that you have sold a watch that you bought from them prior. Last but not least, this point expands on the flipping issue, which is perhaps one of the most controversial subjects in recent Rolex availability discussions. Rolex retailers may refuse to sell you a watch because they do not want to sell to those who flip their watches. The retailer may have been notified by Rolex that you sold a watch you purchased, or they may have discovered it themselves while scouring the web. If a Rolex retailer discovers that you have sold a watch that they originally sold you, they will usually blacklist you and refuse to sell you another watch. This is why, if you do decide to sell a watch, you must be cautious and discreet so that they do not discover it. One method is to sell your watch outside of your local market or outside of your country to ensure that no one ever walks into their boutique with your watch to have it checked, serviced, or anything else. Please consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so already, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. We've got more videos about your favorite luxury brands coming soon.